The story begins with Commander Sarah Chen, a 15-year veteran of Earth's newly formed Stellar Defense Force, sitting in the dimly lit briefing room of the ESS Vengeance. Her weathered hands trace the scar across her left temple as she recalls the moment that changed everything. "They called us primitives," she begins, her voice carrying the weight of memory. The Keth'var Hegemony ruled over 200 star systems, commanded fleets that had conquered civilizations for millennia. To them, we were just another backwater species playing with crude rockets and nuclear toys. They were wrong. The narrative flashes back to 6 months earlier when humanity had just achieved faster-than-light travel. Earth's scientists had cracked the quantum fold drive, but their technology was still decades behind the galactic standard. First contact came not through diplomacy, but through subjugation. The Keth'var Hegemony, a military empire spanning half the galaxy, sent a single cruiser to Earth with a simple message: submit or be eliminated. Their ambassador, a towering reptilian creature named Thekmon, delivered the ultimatum with casual arrogance. Your species shows promise as laborers. Surrender now, and 30% of your population will be spared for work colonies. Earth's leaders had 72 hours to respond. The world's governments met in emergency session while panic spread across the planet. Stock markets crashed, riots erupted in major cities, and religious leaders declared the end times. But in the depths of the Pentagon's classified levels, Admiral James Morrison was having a very different conversation with Earth's top military strategists. "We've been preparing for this day since we detected their first scout probe 3 years ago," he revealed to a stunned Sarah Chen and her fellow commanders. Project Prometheus has been humanity's best-kept secret. The hook deepens as Sarah remembers the moment she first saw the hidden fleet. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility so classified it didn't officially exist, Earth had been building something extraordinary. Not ships designed to match alien technology, but weapons crafted specifically to exploit what humanity had observed about galactic warfare through intercepted communications. While alien civilizations had grown complacent with standardized energy shields and predictable plasma weapons, Earth had taken a different path entirely. The tension builds as the 72-hour deadline approaches. Thekmon and his crew wait in orbit, confident in their superiority, while Earth's surface appears to be in chaos. What they don't know is that every piece of panic, every news report of humanity's despair, is carefully orchestrated. Earth isn't preparing to surrender. Earth is preparing to send a message that will echo across the galaxy for generations. Sarah Chen emerged as humanity's most decorated commander not through political connections, but through her unique background. Born to a Chinese-American military family, she had spent her childhood moving between bases, learning Mandarin, English, and Spanish fluently. Her father, a Marine Corps general, had taught her that victory often belonged to whoever could think differently than their enemy. Her mother, a theoretical physicist, had shown her that the universe's greatest secrets were hidden in plain sight. This combination of military strategy and scientific curiosity made Sarah the perfect candidate for Project Prometheus. The Keth'var Hegemony represented everything humanity despised about galactic civilization. For over 3,000 years, they had built their empire through overwhelming force and technological superiority. Their military doctrine was simple: deploy massive fleets, rely on energy shields to absorb enemy fire, then obliterate resistance with plasma bombardments. They had never encountered a species that refused to fight on their terms. Their arrogance was their defining characteristic, born from millennia of effortless victories. Thekmon himself embodied this attitude, standing 8 feet tall with scales that could deflect small arms fire and eyes that glowed with predatory intelligence. He had personally overseen the subjugation of 47 species and considered humans just another entry in his conquest record. Admiral Morrison had spent 3 decades preparing for this moment. A former Navy SEAL turned strategic planner, he understood that Earth's only advantage lay in being underestimated. While the galaxy fought with energy weapons and force fields, Earth had quietly perfected something far more primitive yet devastatingly effective: kinetic warfare. The Prometheus project had developed weapons that the galaxy had forgotten could exist. Rail guns that fired tungsten rods at relativistic speeds, electromagnetic pulse devices that could cripple electronics from impossible ranges, and most crucially, stealth technology that rendered ships invisible to energy-based sensors. The hidden fleet beneath the Pacific consisted of 12 vessels, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. The ships were built from materials that absorbed energy rather than reflecting it, making them ghosts to conventional scanners. Their weapons systems bypassed shields entirely, using physical projectiles that moved too fast for point defense systems designed to intercept energy blasts. Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the ESS Retribution, Sarah's closest friend and tactical advisor, had nicknamed their strategy, bringing knives to a laser fight, not knowing how prophetic that phrase would become. Earth's civilian population, unaware of the secret preparations, genuinely believed they were facing extinction. This authentic fear created the perfect cover for military movements. News broadcasts showed terrified crowds while underground, the most sophisticated war machine in human history prepared to deploy. The psychological warfare aspect was crucial. Earth needed the Keth'var to believe they were dealing with a helpless, primitive species right until the moment of revelation. The world building extends to Earth's rapid technological evolution. Humanity had reverse-engineered captured alien technology not to copy it, but to understand its weaknesses. Every major galactic civilization had grown dependent on energy-based systems that could be disrupted. Their ships were faster and more powerful than Earth's, but they were also predictable. Sarah and her team had spent months studying galactic warfare footage, identifying patterns that had remained unchanged for centuries. The galaxy had grown stagnant, comfortable in its technological superiority, while Earth had evolved specifically to exploit that complacency. The moment that would terrify an entire galactic empire began at 0300 hours, Pacific Standard Time, just 6 hours before Earth's surrender deadline. Thekmon and his crew aboard the Keth'var cruiser, Dominance, detected nothing unusual as they maintained orbit above Earth's largest population centers. Their sensors showed the expected chaos below, military communications in dozens of languages, civilian evacuation attempts, and what appeared to be desperate last-minute defensive preparations around major cities. The massive alien ship, over 2 kilometers in length and bristling with plasma cannons, represented the pinnacle of galactic military technology. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Vengeance, watching her tactical display as 12 dots rose silently from Earth's oceans. The Prometheus fleet had been waiting beneath the waves, using the planet's magnetic field and ocean depths to mask their signatures. Each ship was a predator designed for a single purpose, to prove that humanity would not go quietly into slavery. All units, this is Vengeance Actual, Sarah spoke into her calm with ice-cold precision. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth today. We're sending a message to every species in this galaxy that humans are not prey. The first phase of the attack was psychological warfare. The 12 human ships materialized around the Keth'var cruiser like ghosts becoming solid, their stealth systems dropping simultaneously to reveal a perfect encirclement. For the first time in his career, Thekmon experienced something he had never felt before, surprise. His reptilian features contorted as alarms screamed across his bridge. Impossible, he hissed, his translator making the words sound like escaping steam. Our sensors detected nothing. How did primitive ships achieve such positioning? Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled across the human fleet's communications. Looks like someone forgot to scan for physical signatures. These lizards have been fighting energy-based warfare so long, they forgot about good old-fashioned metal and ceramics. The ESS Retribution had positioned itself directly above the alien cruiser's primary weapon systems, its rail guns already locked onto critical targets. What happened next lasted exactly 97 seconds and changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The human ships opened fire not with energy weapons that would trigger the Keth'var shields, but with kinetic projectiles moving at 17% the speed of light. Tungsten rods, each one weighing several tons, struck the alien cruiser with the force of nuclear weapons but left no radiation signature. The Dominance's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and laser fire, might as well have been soap bubbles against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The first salvo crippled the alien ship's propulsion systems. The second destroyed its communications array. The third systematically eliminated every weapon emplacement on the vessel's hull. Thekmon watched in horror as his technologically superior cruiser was methodically dismantled by what he had dismissed as primitive spacecraft. Shields at zero effectiveness against kinetic impact, his tactical officer reported, fear evident even through the universal translator. We have no defense against this type of weaponry. Sarah's voice cut through the chaos as she opened a channel to the crippled alien vessel. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Stellar Defense Force. Your ship is disabled, your weapons are offline, and your crew is at our mercy. But we're not like you. The pause that followed was heavy with implication. We don't conquer civilizations for sport. Consider this a demonstration of what happens when you underestimate humanity. The true genius of the attack was its restraint. Earth could have destroyed the Keth'var cruiser entirely, but instead chose to leave it helpless but intact. Every system that could record data was deliberately left functional. The ship's black box, its sensor logs, even its communication equipment remained operational. Earth wanted witnesses. The galaxy needed to know that humanity had not just survived first contact, but had done so in a way that redefined the rules of interstellar warfare. As the Dominance drifted powerless in Earth's orbit, its crew alive but completely vulnerable, Thekmon finally understood the magnitude of his miscalculation. The news of the Dominance's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours of the engagement, every major civilization had received the sensor logs and communication records from the crippled Keth'var cruiser. The reaction was immediate and unprecedented. For the first time in galactic history, an unknown species had not only resisted the hegemony but had done so using weapons technology that none of the major powers could defend against. Sarah watched the intelligence reports flood in from Earth's newly established monitoring stations. The Zephyrian Council, known for their advanced shielding technology, had immediately begun emergency sessions to redesign their defensive systems. The Altarian Federation, humanity's potential allies, were demanding detailed specifications of Earth's kinetic weapons. Most telling of all, the Keth'var Hegemony had recalled 17 fleet groups from active conquest operations, consolidating their forces for what they clearly believed would be a full-scale war with humanity. Thekmon, now a prisoner aboard the ESS Vengeance, had become an unexpected source of intelligence. The proud alien commander, stripped of his ship and crew, oscillated between rage and fascination as he studied human military doctrine. Your species fights like nothing we have encountered, he admitted during one interrogation session, his reptilian eyes fixed on Sarah with newfound respect. The galaxy has spent millennia perfecting energy-based warfare. You have weaponized physics itself. The psychological impact of Earth's victory extended far beyond military circles. Across the galaxy, subjugated species began to whisper about the humans who had humiliated the mighty Keth'var with primitive kinetic weapons. On the mining colonies of Zirion Prime, enslaved Mantari workers secretly celebrated news of the hegemony's first defeat. In the research facilities of Vega Station, Altarian scientists began questioning why their own military had never considered such simple yet effective weapons systems. Admiral Morrison understood that Earth's window of opportunity was closing rapidly. They'll adapt, he warned during an emergency Joint Chiefs meeting. Right now, we have the advantage of surprise and their technological arrogance. But the Keth'var didn't build an empire by making the same mistake twice. Intelligence suggested that the hegemony was already developing countermeasures, improved sensors to detect stealth ships, point defense systems designed for kinetic threats, and most dangerously, new shield technologies that could potentially deflect solid projectiles. The galactic political landscape began shifting dramatically. The Altarian Federation, previously neutral in galactic conflicts, sent secret diplomatic overtures to Earth, offering technological exchanges and mutual defense pacts. The Crystalline Collective, an ancient race known for their isolationist policies, broke 1,000 years of silence to request information about human weapons technology. Even the enigmatic Void Walkers, beings so advanced they rarely acknowledged other species, had apparently taken notice of humanity's unique approach to warfare. Sarah found herself promoted to admiral and tasked with expanding Earth's military capabilities. The Prometheus project evolved into a full-scale industrial initiative, with humanity's greatest minds working to develop new weapons systems that would maintain their strategic advantage. Deep space mining operations began extracting materials for more kinetic projectiles, while Earth's shipyards worked around the clock to build additional stealth vessels. The most ominous development came from Keth'var space itself. Reconnaissance drones reported massive fleet movements, with hundreds of warships converging on strategic staging areas. The hegemony was preparing for total war, mobilizing resources on a scale not seen for centuries. Intercepted communications revealed their strategy: they would not make the mistake of underestimating humanity again. The next engagement would involve overwhelming force, with multiple fleet groups attacking simultaneously to prevent Earth from using tactical superiority to offset numerical disadvantages. As Earth prepared for the inevitable retaliation, Sarah realized that their demonstration of power had achieved its goal perhaps too well. They had wanted to terrify the galaxy into respecting humanity's sovereignty. Instead, they had terrified the galaxy's greatest military power into viewing Earth as an existential threat that needed to be eliminated completely. 3 weeks after the dominance incident, Earth's long-range sensors detected the largest military formation in recorded galactic history approaching the solar system. The Keth'var Hegemony had assembled over 300 capital ships, supported by thousands of fighters and support vessels. Their fleet stretched across space like a metallic constellation, bristling with enough firepower to reduce entire worlds to molten slag. Admiral Keth'var himself, the hegemony's supreme military commander and Thekmon's uncle, led the armada aboard the massive dreadnought, Galaxy's Fist. Sarah stood in Earth's primary command center, buried 3 miles beneath the Colorado Rockies, watching tactical displays that showed humanity's desperate situation. Earth had managed to construct 47 ships in the weeks following first contact, but they were outnumbered 7-1 by an enemy that now understood the threat kinetic weapons represented. "They've learned from our demonstration," reported Captain Rodriguez, his usual confidence replaced by grim determination. "New sensor arrays designed to detect our stealth signatures, point defense systems calibrated for high-velocity projectiles, and shield generators that can deflect solid matter." The battle began at the edge of the solar system, where Earth's outer defense perimeter consisted of automated weapons platforms disguised as asteroids. These platforms, armed with rail guns and missile systems, represented humanity's first innovation since the dominance engagement, distributed warfare. Rather than concentrating their forces in traditional fleet formations, Earth had scattered defensive installations throughout the solar system, turning the entire star system into a fortress. Admiral Keth'var's opening move demonstrated the hegemony's evolved tactics. Instead of the cautious approach his nephew had used, he ordered a full-speed assault directly toward Earth, accepting losses from the hidden weapons platforms in exchange for maintaining momentum. Primitive mines and static defenses, he broadcasted to his fleet, his voice carrying across intercepted communications. "They hope to slow us with cowardice. Show them the price of humiliating the hegemony." Sarah watched as the first wave of alien ships smashed through her outer defenses, absorbing punishment from the automated platforms while maintaining formation integrity. The Keth'var had learned humanity's lessons too well, adapting their traditional overwhelming force doctrine to account for unconventional warfare. "They're not making the same mistake twice," she murmured, recognizing the tactical brilliance of sacrificing ships to maintain strategic momentum. The human fleet engaged the enemy at Jupiter orbit, using the gas giant's massive gravitational field as both cover and weapon. Captain Martinez aboard the ESS Thunderbolt led the first squadron in a desperate flanking maneuver, diving toward Jupiter's radiation-heavy atmosphere to mask their approach. The kinetic weapons that had proven so effective against the dominance now met prepared defenses. Alien point defense systems tracked and destroyed many of the tungsten projectiles, while new shield technologies deflected others. But humanity had spent 3 weeks preparing for exactly this scenario. Sarah's voice cut across the fleet communications with calm precision: "Execute Prometheus Protocol 7. All units, switch to dispersal pattern Omega." The human ships suddenly scattered in every direction, abandoning traditional fleet cohesion for individual hunter-killer tactics. Each vessel became an independent predator, using Jupiter's moons and asteroid debris as cover while targeting specific weaknesses in the alien formation. The battle's turning point came when Rodriguez identified a critical flaw in the Keth'var adaptation strategy. Their new shields could deflect kinetic projectiles, but only by redirecting the energy into their power systems. "Sarah, they're overloading their own generators," he reported excitedly. "Every hit they deflect brings them closer to cascade failure." This discovery led to humanity's most brutal innovation yet, sustained kinetic bombardment designed not to penetrate shields, but to overload them through sheer volume of fire. The ESS Retribution demonstrated this technique by focusing all its weapons on a single Keth'var battleship. Wave after wave of tungsten rods struck the alien vessel's shields, each impact forcing the defensive systems to work harder. Within minutes, the battleship's power grid collapsed under the strain, leaving it vulnerable to a final kinetic strike that split the massive vessel in half. As news of this tactic spread through the human fleet, Earth's ships began coordinating sustained bombardments against priority targets. The Keth'var formation, designed for traditional energy-based warfare, proved vulnerable to this new form of systematic overload attacks. One by one, their largest ships began falling to weapons they had thought they could defend against. The decisive moment came when Admiral Keth'var, watching his superior numbers slowly ground down by humanity's relentless innovation, made a choice that would haunt the galaxy for generations. Aboard the Galaxy's Fist, he authorized the use of planetary bombardment weapons against Earth itself. "If we cannot defeat their ships, we will burn their world," he declared, his massive dreadnought turning toward the blue-green planet that had dared to resist Keth'var dominance. Sarah recognized the threat immediately as her sensors detected the dreadnought's massive plasma cannons charging for surface bombardment. Earth's ground-based populations, the billions of civilians who had no part in this cosmic conflict, would be obliterated within minutes. "All ships, emergency protocol," she broadcasted across the human fleet. "Keth'var is targeting Earth directly. This ends now." What followed was humanity's most desperate and brilliant gambit of the entire war. Rather than attempting to intercept the dreadnought with conventional attacks, Sarah ordered every human ship to target a single point, the Galaxy's Fist's main reactor core. The plan required perfect coordination and absolute precision, with 47 ships focusing their kinetic weapons on a target barely 50 meters wide while the massive vessel maneuvered to avoid them. Captain Rodriguez understood the implications immediately. "Sarah, if we miss, Earth dies. If we hit too hard, the reactor detonation could take out half our fleet." The margin for error was measured in milliseconds and centimeters, requiring a level of coordination that no military force in galactic history had ever attempted. The synchronized attack lasted 17 seconds. Tungsten rods from 47 different ships converged on the Galaxy's Fist's reactor housing with mathematical precision, each projectile timed to arrive within microseconds of the others. The first wave cracked the reactor's containment shields. The second wave breached the primary housing. The third wave destabilized the antimatter containment field that powered the massive dreadnought. Admiral Keth'var had enough time to understand what was happening before his flagship became a miniature star. The Galaxy's Fist's reactor detonation lit up space brighter than Sol itself, vaporizing everything within a 50-kilometer radius and sending an electromagnetic pulse that disabled half the remaining Keth'var fleet. The supreme commander of the galaxy's most feared military died not in glorious battle, but in an explosion created by primitive kinetic weapons fired by species he had dismissed as inferior. The psychological impact of watching their flagship and supreme commander obliterated by coordinated kinetic fire broke the Keth'var fleet's will to fight. Ship after ship began withdrawing from the solar system, their crews no longer believing in their technological superiority. The remaining commanders, faced with weapons they couldn't fully defend against and tactics they couldn't predict, chose survival over conquest. Sarah watched the alien fleet retreat beyond the edge of the solar system, knowing that humanity had won far more than a single battle. Word of Earth's victory would spread across every inhabited world in the galaxy. The species that had seemed destined for slavery had instead proven that innovation could triumph over overwhelming force, that adaptability could defeat even the most advanced military technology. As the last Keth'var ship disappeared into hyperspace, Sarah realized that Earth was no longer an isolated world hoping to avoid notice. Humanity had announced its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, and the consequences of that announcement would reshape interstellar politics for generations to come. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul, as historians would later name it, the galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. Sarah Chen, now Supreme Admiral of Earth's Stellar Defense Force, stood before the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on Altair Prime, addressing representatives from over 200 species. The chamber that had once echoed with Keth'var dominance now buzzed with discussions of defensive alliances, technology-sharing agreements, and most importantly, protection from what many species now called the human doctrine. The Keth'var Hegemony, stripped of its supreme leadership and technological confidence, had fragmented into 17 smaller territorial groups. Some sought peace with humanity, offering tribute and non-aggression pacts. Others retreated to the galaxy's outer rim, nursing their wounds and planning eventual revenge. The power vacuum left by their collapse had reshuffled galactic politics completely, with dozens of previously subjugated species declaring independence and seeking Earth's protection. Captain Rodriguez, now commanding Earth's first deep space exploration fleet, reported discoveries that vindicated humanity's strategic approach. Every major galactic civilization we've encountered follows the same pattern, he told Sarah during a secure communication from the Andromeda sector. They developed energy-based weapons, perfected them over millennia, then stopped innovating. They all have the same vulnerabilities we exploited against the Keth'var. The technological revolution sparked by human kinetic weapons had rippled across known space. The Altarian Federation had successfully reverse-engineered rail-gun technology, while the Crystalline Collective had developed hybrid weapons systems combining energy projection with solid projectiles. Most significantly, dozens of species had begun developing their own stealth technologies, leading to what military analysts called the Great Defensive Revolution. Earth itself had evolved from a single-world species to the center of an expanding coalition. The Solar Defense Alliance now included 47 member species, all bound by mutual defense treaties and shared technological development programs. Humanity's greatest export was no longer resources or culture, but military innovation and strategic thinking that had broken the galaxy's technological stagnation. Sarah often reflected on Thek Mon, the former Keth'var commander who had chosen to remain on Earth as a diplomatic advisor. "Your species didn't just defeat us," he had told her during their final conversation before his departure to establish the first Keth'var Human Peace Treaty. "You taught the galaxy that there are always new ways to fight, new ways to think, new ways to survive. That lesson will outlive both our civilizations." As Earth's exploration fleets pushed deeper into unknown space, carrying kinetic weapons and human tactical doctrine to distant stars, Sarah understood that humanity's true victory hadn't been military. They had terrified a galactic empire not through superior firepower, but through superior thinking. In a galaxy that had grown complacent with traditional warfare, humanity had proven that innovation, adaptability, and the willingness to fight unconventionally could overcome any technological advantage. The day Earth's military terrified an entire galactic empire had become the day the galaxy learned to think differently about war, peace, and the dangerous potential of underestimating a species willing to break every rule to survive.